Have you lost your job? Have you lost a loved one? Are you exhausted caring for your parents, for your kids? Well, you can find immediate relief when you read Sheila Mac's new #1 bestseller, Bootstraps and Bra Straps. It contains the Boots formula to move from rock bottom back into action in any situation, especially right now. If life has knocked you down, pick yourself up with Bootstraps and Bra Straps. Get your copy at www.sheilamac.com today.
Are you ready for a reboot? Welcome to the Sheila Mac Show, reality at its finest. History reminds us those hit hardest often become the change makers. This year, we've all hit crazy economic, social, and emotional rock bottoms. We all get knocked down. Something hits globally, locally, personally. It affects our health, finances, our relationships. We have to recreate a business or career. Each show, Sheila and her special guest will be sharing their reboot stories, guiding you with real solutions to upgrade and up-level emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. Here on NBC's KCAA Radio, Mondays at 1 and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Pacific Time. If you're ready to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and bra straps, enjoy a listen. Here's Sheila.
Welcome to the Sheila Mac Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mac, and today we have special guest Kylie Burton. Kylie is a mother of 2 children, 3 years old and 6 months old, a doctor and an entrepreneur. She's learned how to juggle a lot at once. But her biggest passion is helping people like Cosette, who's 65 years old, who said, I stopped chasing doctors after I met Dr. Kylie. Dr. Kylie is a functional medicine specialist. She's helped thousands of individuals with seemingly impossible health strategies find answers, healing, and hope, even if they've been told their labs are normal. So now she teaches practitioners as well how to incorporate a new way of reading labs with their patients. Her recent series of live webinars for a supplement company called Systematic Formulas, who dispenses to licensed doctors only, was so popular they've asked her to return on 3 separate occasions so far. And she's also been featured on the popular show Good Morning Utah, and now the Sheila Mac Show.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, Kylie.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to share tips and tricks to help people reboot their systems, reboot their bodies, reboot their health, no matter where they're at in life. So
I'd like to start. This show is based on my latest best-selling book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. And this year we've had just about every situation hit us globally. So I'd love to start out with finding out if there's a time in your business or personal life where you hit a tough situation and what you did to overcome that.
I would love to share. So I'm going to go personal here and I might get a little teary-eyed because I'm already starting. This isn't a good sign. It's the anniversary coming up here in a couple of days of it. But 3 years ago, I was pregnant with my second pregnancy. I had just come off my first pregnancy. I was one of those people that, 5 months after pregnancy, 5 months after delivery, you figure out that you're pregnant again. And so at this point, it was hard just to realize that I was pregnant again. Here I am. I'm 5 months pregnant with a 9-month-old baby.
Yeah.
Trying to start a business in a couple of months and be a doctor and all of that. When Thanksgiving time came around, Thanksgiving is by far my favorite holiday. I like to say that during Thanksgiving, I become a redneck and I go do redneck things with my cousins. And we go down to, rural Utah and we literally catch chickens and jump hay bales and we become rednecks. It's so awesome. But 3 years ago, the flu struck the family. And it was a flu that took us all down, all of my cousins. And I mean, there's 40 of us cousins.
Wow.
now we're married and all have kids. So there's a lot in the family, and it took us all down, aunts and uncles, everything. And it was the flu that I couldn't eat anything for 3 days straight. I was maybe getting a little bit of Gatorade in, and remember, I am 20 weeks pregnant with the flu.
Yeah.
And you always think that you're pregnant, so once you're pregnant, you're going to have a baby. That's just it until that happens, until it doesn't happen. So here I am with the flu. All of us are sick. I have a 9-month-old baby. He's sick too. And I'm just thinking in my head, okay, I'm going to get over this. The pregnancy is going to be fine. It's going to be okay. And then I finally got over it. Monday hit, and I had a little bit of spotting, a little bit of, something's not right. But I didn't think it would be that wrong. So I remember telling my husband, I was like, something's not right. I don't feel good. This pregnancy, that's what's not right, was something with the pregnancy. But I had an appointment with my midwife the next day. So I thought, I'll just wait till my appointment and tell her and see what's going on. Well, I didn't make it till the next day. I woke up in the middle of the night and there was water everywhere. Now, granted, I had experienced labor 9 months previously. So I knew what this meant. But in that instance, you're still in denial. Like, okay, this really isn't happening, So I was thinking to myself, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'm going to clean off, wash off. I'll just get back in bed and sleep it off. Well, then the contractions happened. And it was like with every contraction, it was that sense of, why is my body betraying me? How can I stop it? Even though there's no way you can stop it. And so I just started thinking, okay, now what? So I woke up my husband and I said, we got to go to the ER. I'm in big trouble. So by the time we made it to the ER, I'm soaking through all my clothes, and they lay me on the ER table. And I don't know if the ER doc just didn't know how to handle the scenario very well, or if it hit home too well for him. I don't know, but he didn't handle it very well. And I had a miscarriage right there on the ER table, 20 weeks into pregnancy. And I remember thinking, here's my baby laying underneath me, laying underneath the blankets. And I'm a mess, emotionally, physically, mentally, like everything. I was just exhausted in every way, shape, or form. And because of the intensity of the moment, now I look back and I think I would have done things a little bit differently. But in the moment, it was such a shock that when they ask you, okay, well, here's your little baby, she's the size of your hand. What do you want to do? And I know some people have taken the route of doing a funeral and having a graveside service and having a burial spot for her. But for me, it was like literally just an emotional decision. And I think I would go back and do that differently, where I would have somewhere where I could go to celebrate her. And we had just given her a name. We named her Addison Kennedy Burton. And so it was like, we finally just came to terms that here we are having a baby again. We gave her a name, so it was special. And then this happens. So I went from thinking, you're pregnant, that means you're going to have a baby, to, I never thought this would happen to me. And now it has.
Yeah.
So I learned that in that scenario, when you literally feel like your body is betraying you, how to take that emotion and help it with my patients. So I spinned it in a positive direction. So now where a mom comes in or somebody who's struggling with infertility, I can understand on such a deeper level. And when they tell me I had a miscarriage at 6 weeks, and then I say, oh, well, you'll be fine the next time around. That's not how I take it anymore. I am much more empathetic and much more understanding, to the point where I can talk to women about miscarriages and stillborns because I've experienced it. And when you've experienced it and you're in that club, it's a sucky club to be in, but we understand each other and we can communicate with each other, whereas people from the outside world can't. Like my family members, my mom's never experienced pregnancy. My sister-in-laws have never experienced a pregnancy loss, I should say. So as far as them understanding, I shouldn't expect them to. And that's where I find women who really struggle with this scenario. I mean, we've had 2 different celebrities really come out and and talk about their miscarriage openly with, you're gonna have to help me with the names here because I'm not into celebrities. But we had John Legend's wife, and then we had the princess. What's her name? Meghan Martell?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Those 2 just came out in the last month and brought up this conversation of miscarriage and stillborns. And I think, as a child and as a youth and growing up and teenagers and then you get young adult life and you think, I want to have a baby, you never think it's going to happen to you until it does. So I hit rock bottom mentally, physically, emotionally. I mean, I had lost so much blood that I couldn't be with my baby by myself because I couldn't even hold him. I was so weak. I couldn't hold him. I couldn't stand up. I would get lightheaded. And I was on that verge of giving me a blood transfusion or not, and they chose not to. So it was a longer recovery physically for me. And then I think mentally and emotionally, we have to be kind with ourselves because there are moments where it's just going to hit you. And let yourself cry. Let the tears come out. Let your body experience those emotions. Don't tuck them in. Especially when it comes to miscarriages and stillborns. My goal would be to open this conversation up more because so many of us hide it. I know the lady who came to my rescue. I've known her for 20 years. I had no idea she had 6 miscarriages before she even had her first baby.
Wow. Yeah.
So I was like, wait a second. I mean, I knew you during that time and still I had no idea you were experiencing this. And it's just one of those things that we tuck away and we don't expect anybody to talk about it or ask us about it or any of those type of scenarios. So that's where I hit rock bottom personally on basically every level.
Wow. Yes. That is definitely a tough situation. I don't know the statistics on it, but it's a large number of us moms who've had that experience at least once. And
they say 1 in 4 pregnancies end early.
Yes. And it seems that also there's a lot of people that wait until the time clock is ticking and it's almost over and they do the infertility, and it tends to be more. The numbers go higher depending on your age and your health and this and that as well. And so I think that makes the numbers even higher. I have lots of friends. I have a friend that just had a baby and she is 49. She doesn't know what happened. And she already has 2 children and she has issues and she is now I think the baby's now almost 1. Little David, if she's watching anyway. And she just was, and she got really lucky because she was healthy enough and she didn't have a problem, whereas she had a complication earlier in other pregnancies when she was really young. So you just never know. Yeah.
And even the rates of infertility, they say that 1 in 7 couples struggle with infertility, and those are you only get the diagnosis after you've been trying for over a year. So if it's 8 months or 10 months, you're still considered not infertile. So the numbers are even higher when we think about the rates of infertility too. Gotta love those hormones. Gotta love that pregnancy journey.
I know, it is a journey. My daughter says she wants to do a surrogate because, man, she works at a girls' home that's for young pregnant moms and their babies. So she has been in the labor room many times and had the experience, which is such a beautiful thing to be able to have that experience where the girls don't have anyone. And so she's the counselor and she'll go in with them. She's only 24 herself. And so she's like, oh, wow, no.
She hasn't experienced, well, I guess if she's in the home with them, she sees pregnancies. My first pregnancy, it was awful. It was so awful. I was throwing up sick for 7 months. I actually became a doctor the same week I became a mom. So I would never recommend doing medical school on top of pregnancy at the same time. But hey, I survived it, lived to tell the story. It was awful. And that was part of the reason when I got pregnant again, I was like, I can't do this. I can't go through another 9 months or another 8 months or another 7 months and just be sick and throwing up and tired. And I mean, we had a 10-minute break between all of our classes. Our classes would start from 7:30 and they'd go till 6:30.
Mm-hmm.
And I would fall asleep on the couch in the foyer of one of the buildings in the 10-minute breaks. And my old roommate would come wake me up and be like, okay, guys, it's class time. I'm like, okay. And I'd will myself into class, or I showed up first thing in the morning and I would have her do my hair and makeup during our meetings for clinic. Like I'd roll in just really literally out of bed because I was so tired. The things nobody tells you. And then you have a baby and your hair starts falling out and you can't lose the weight. It's a great story we women put ourselves through. And then we're like, oh, let's do it again. And we do it again.
I don't know how it happens. I have 6 children. 3 are mine, 3 I adopted. They're all mine. So 3 are birth and 3 are adoption.
I love that.
And, you know, they're all grown now. But it was a journey and it was a lot of work. I do have my youngest son at 22 last Christmas. So we're almost to that anniversary. He passed away. He had a heart condition called Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. And so they did ablation in 5th or 6th grade. They did an ablation and they said, well, he could live a long life or you just don't know. And he went to sleep at grandma's and didn't wake up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so that grieving, I mean, we're still obviously like you, there's a grieving process that unless somebody's had that with a loved one, a child, somebody that close, it's a different thing. And all my kids were super close. So we took time off. The funeral was in January and we were kind of waking up and getting back on track with life in February. We went to a big event with friends. We do a lot with the Tony Robbins group. So we went to his birthday party and that was our first time out, February 29th. And then we come back home and the universal pause, our pandemic hits. And we're like, wait, we just started getting up and now this hits us. And one of my daughter actually said, she's the only girl. She said, Mom, if ever there was a year we needed a universal pause, it was this year. And so we embraced the time, the family time, the quiet time, cutting back on certain things. We had to put things on pause. So if you're listening right now and you're going through the loss, we've had a lot of loss this year overall, and a lot to grieve about in one way or another. That is so important to embrace the emotions, to be okay with the sadness, to be okay with those feelings, because this is my belief, and I don't know what you think about this, but if we hold it in, it shows up in our body.
Yes.
And if we let it out, it's out. And, you know, and you don't want to get stuck there, but you've got to honor that. And then it's able to process easier. And that doesn't mean it goes away. Anniversaries, holidays, you still feel that.
Yeah. My anniversary is December 3rd when we lost her.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you have the double whammy, because you have the due date as well, which was April 26th. And it's just like, you just try to keep yourself busy those days and not think about it. It's a rough go. Have you ever heard of the Love Kennedy movie?
No.
You should look it up. Love Kennedy is a movie. It's one of our best friends, my husband and our best friends. Their daughter was Kennedy, and she got this terminal illness diagnosis. I can't remember what it is right off the top of my head, but she died at 16 years old. And it was literally just the last 5 years of her life, just watching her body deteriorate and eat her nervous system to the point where it finally, collapsed. And it's a story about her journey. And then Heather and Jason and her parents are very good friends. They live about 10 minutes away, but yeah. And people always think, well, it's been a year, you should get over it by now. Or it's been 3 years, like they just had her birthday was this past week and she would have been 23 this past year. So it's just like you play out those what ifs in your head and play it out and then release it and let go of the emotions. Yeah. As a functional medicine doctor, I actually started to incorporate emotions into my emotional healing into my treatment, because I found that all of these patients that I'm working with, these women that I'm working with, have horrible backgrounds. Like one mom, her mother was crazy, absolute lunatic. She parked the car with all 4 kids on a railroad train, on a track, and then allowed the train to come hit the car.
Oh.
Now here's the catch. The dad was supposed to be the conductor of the train.
My goodness.
So she was mad at dad and was literally going to allow dad to kill the kids. And I'm like, you're 36 and can't function. I wonder why.
Dad.
So yeah, emotions do play a role in our health. And if I were to say, 5, 6, 7 years ago, if I were to be treating emotions in my practice, I would have laughed at you. But the more I learn about the body and the more I learn about how powerful it can be, the more I learned that we do store emotions, and it does come out in our physical health. It's pretty cool and pretty crappy at the same time.
Yeah, it is. It's something that I really worked on with my kids as we were home together. We got a punching bag. I was like, if we need to cry, if you feel like cussing, we're going to do whatever. They're all adults, but whatever you need to do, we need to, it's okay. You have permission in a safe way, the punching bag, or we're going to talk. And everybody got grief therapy, all that.
Smart.
And even now it's like, okay, we're coming up to a holiday. Do you think you need to contact the grief therapist again and have a couple more talk sessions and see what else you need to get out? Or do you need to talk to me? You can wake me up at 3 a.m. I'm there. And so that's kind of where we're at as a family. Not everybody's home, but they can call. And so that really, it's helped a lot. And still, like you, there are days that you're going to feel it, where that something's going to hit you. You'll get a trigger, and you'll have to honor that.
Yeah, especially upcoming with this holiday season. I know we just had Thanksgiving. We've got Christmas coming up. And for me, it's my happiest time of the year. But for like my husband and for many others, it's stressful and hurtful. Because you have my family's my everything. But for people who don't have the family support or who don't have the loved one support in any way, shape, or form, the holiday season can be very, very rough. And if I could just give a plug in for infertility, if people are struggling with infertility, one, you're not going to know it unless they're vocal about it. And very few people are vocal about it unless they've experienced, the IVF or reached out and have been going through this for a lot of years. So I've had several people who I've helped work with say a couple of things to me.
Yeah.
So as this holiday season comes up and we're talking to family and friends, whether it be Zoom or StreamYard or however it be, these are 3 things not to say. So one is just do IVF, just adopt, just you name it.
Right.
Okay. It undermines the infertility struggle. It undermines that miscarriage struggle. One of my friends, she's trying to get pregnant and she just had her second miscarriage at 16 weeks and then 9 weeks beforehand. So it's like she's already playing a mental game in her head. Other people don't mean to make it worse.
Right.
So the second thing is at least you're married. At least you already have a baby. At least you have a job. At least you have, whatever the case may be, that still undermines that struggle, because it's a really hard struggle for many people. And then the third thing would be what someone said to me right after I lost. It was a couple months after I lost. Actually, it wouldn't be a couple months because Easton was 2. Year and a half after I lost Addison. Someone said to me, well, how old's your little boy? And I said, well, he's 2. Oh, well, aren't you due for another one?
Oh, wow.
I had another one. We lost her. And so just don't ever tell a woman that she's due for anything.
Yeah.
You never know how long the struggle's been. You never know if she's had a miscarriage or is stillborn. A lot of times people are silent about it. And you just never know what they're going through and what they've been through.
Very, very good. These are important points. And I think that that's something that we're stopping. And that's the one thing we're stopping as a society, especially with this universal pause, is we're stopping our silence. We're talking about things openly now. And before, women would hide these situations, or, just, get up and go the next day and we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And it was just the way it had to be. It was an unwritten law.
Right.
A rule that in many societies, in many cultures, that's just what you do. And, that really is hard to heal and hard to get through. And maybe that's why there was a lot more anger and different problems that showed up in the past. And now we're able to talk about these things and be honest about it. People don't know, honestly, people don't know how to talk to a friend who's lost a baby or had a miscarriage or lost a child. They don't know what to say sometimes, so they say nothing, or they don't understand, like we were talking about. They haven't been in our shoes, and so they're not able to know, like, it's been a couple months. Aren't you moving on? How's your business? Aren't you, like, getting your stuff together? And it's like, hold up a minute. Hello? I've got other children. I've got other stuff going on, and we got to tend to what we need to do as a family first. And people they can't fathom it.
Yeah. One of the things I did for my friend, who she just let me know that she lost the second one. I got, there's like I can't remember what they're called, but they're little wooden carved mom with a baby on her shoulder. And so I sent that to her, and she's like, that was perfect. I just wanted something to put on my shelf to just remember that I do have 2 babies up in heaven waiting for me. And I think little tokens of thoughts like that, I shoot her a text message. Hey, I'm just checking in with you. How are you feeling? And she's like, she usually says, well, I actually have a question for you for the doctor side of things, but you always just check in and be honest with them. Don't just say, hey, how are you? Because they're really going to say, oh, we're good. Ask something more, like, how are you feeling today? Or can I make you dinner? Like, offer something specific that they can say yes or no to, not just, hey, how you feeling? Oh, I'm good. Because that's what response you're going to get, whether they feel good or not.
Yes, this is very helpful, because it just showing support. Maybe you couldn't be present for a funeral or for whatever, depending on what you did, or like for a child, for instance, is a little different as far as usually you have a ceremony. But if you're present, just checking in and sending love and energy. There's all these studies, they bless water, they put positive words, Dr. Emoto, they put the positive words on the water, and the water makes beautiful, like, snowflake structures, and the molecular structure of the water changes. Now, if you ignore the water, or if you say bad, negative things, or put terrible hate or something like that on the water, if you write those words, it gets jagged and ugly water. And so it's the same with people. So I really feel like so many people sent me love energy and prayer energy and everything through my journey, losing my son into our family. And I don't know, maybe it was mental, but I felt like I felt it. I
think you do. I think I do.
Yes. And so sometimes that's all we can do. And it was interesting. My mother lost a baby before she had me, and it was a boy. So it was way far along in the pregnancy. And she always told me, you have a brother, and he's on the other side, and he watches over you. and she didn't give me a name. So I don't know. I guess she never named him. She's not around now to ask. She passed away. But she told me that, and so that was something that wasn't even normal back then, to have that. But she just said, oh, he's always with you, and you would have been best friends, and done, and so she kept him alive in her own way.
Right. Yeah, we have a little stocking with the letter A on it for Addison. So we all have our routes, but I love your mom. Back then they didn't have the ultrasounds that they could determine boy or girl at 20 weeks. And so here she is having this baby, discovers it's a boy, and then keeps him alive through her own avenues. I love that.
Yeah.
I always say that we have Addison's watching over from heaven too.
Mm-hmm.
We have our little angel by our side.
Right. And now you have 2 other children. Now you have a little baby that's 6 months old.
Uh-huh.
And
yeah. So the third pregnancy, if you want to talk about mental whack jobs, like going through that experience and then getting pregnant afterwards, that played a mental mind game on me. My first pregnancy, I always say it was a physical struggle, where this third one was a mental struggle. I got sent to a high-risk pregnancy doc early on because they just, want to rule out, make sure everything's good. And that high-risk doc sat and told me how I was completely wrong. In my training, I always want to figure out what causes stuff. And so I was like, okay, what caused my body to abort this pregnancy? And I was like, okay, it had a very stressful event. And that's like the number 3 cause of miscarriages. So if you've experienced a miscarriage, the number 1 cause is the genes just didn't mesh. And the body says, okay, it's not going to work. Let's just abort. That's usually a first trimester miscarriage. The second one is, oh my gosh, it just lost me. We'll get to the third. The third one's a stressful event, which was mine, my stressful event. And so this doctor sat and told me all the research, all the evidence, and how I was completely wrong in saying that the flu was what caused my pregnancy loss. She sat and told me how it's 70% likely that the same thing is going to happen to this pregnancy during the same time period. Wow. And goes off for like 45 minutes. And I literally left that room bawling. Yes. And I sat back after I got myself composed. Thank heavens my husband was with me because he wasn't going to go, but he decided to come in. So he had my support, and he looked at me and he said, okay, you're trained differently. What do you know? And I said, it's the flu. I lost her because my body had to make a choice. Do I feed myself or do I feed the baby? And of course, they're always going to feed your body. Yeah. And so I tossed all of her recommendations to the side. I mean, she was telling me how I was going to have progesterone injections. Oh, that's the number 2. Deficiency in progesterone is a very common cause. So if you've had multiple miscarriages, your progesterone should spike when you get pregnant. And if it doesn't, then you can have that early miscarriage as well. So there's number 2. I knew it would come to me. So she told me I was going to have to get these injections. I was going to have to check in with her every single week and basically become this high intensity, high risk pregnancy. Everybody's going to have to be on high alert type thing. That was at 12 weeks. I did not do a single one of her recommendations. I never saw her again. I went back to my midwife and I told her what had happened. And I was like, I'm pretty sure the way that she made me feel was like she needed more patience. So she was trying to fear-base me into becoming one of her patients. But because of the background I have with functional medicine, once I got my emotions in control, I could step back and say, no, this is what happened to me. I'm going to be okay during this pregnancy. And I totally was. But again, it was a mental battle. So the last month of that pregnancy, I was dilated at a 4 for a month. Oh, wow. Every time I would go into my midwife, she'd be like, oh, you're not going to make it through the weekend. Oh, you're not going to make it through the weekend. And then I'd show up the next week. You're not going to make it through. Like 4 times I heard that. So it was just such a mental battle. And I have a small body figure. So I have this ginormous basketball sitting in front of me. So the physical toll was taking its toll, the mental toll, till finally I was due on Mother's Day of this year. So May 10th was my due date. And she called me a few days beforehand and she's like, are you ready to have a baby? And I said, yes, please. I'm ready. So we actually got induced on May 9th. So after all of that month, it still took my body to get induced to have a baby. But when she was ready, she came fast. She came like within 2 minutes. Yeah. But it was getting up to that point. And now she's like my healing, my I'm more grateful. And
Mhm.
I'm more specific about the time I spend with my kids, even though I'm doing the doctor thing and the mommy thing and the entrepreneur thing all at once. I have my set hours for work and doctor. Then the rest of the time is motherhood. And I
Mhm.
just know that, you know this too. You don't know when that timetable is going to be up, and they're never going to be that age again.
Yes.
So just soak it all in, no matter what age your kids are, whether they're teenagers and you want to kill them,
Mhm.
or they're my 3-year-old and we're battling out this morning because heaven forbid I didn't let him push the water thing down in the bathtub.
Ah,
Whatever the case may be, just love them because they're never going to be that age again.
right. Yes. I think that gives us a different perspective when we lose someone, a loved one, a baby. You have a different perspective on everything. That's I think one of the gifts. You know how you're supposed to find the gifts in every bad situation, and I think that's definitely something that it changes what matters
Yeah.
a lot.
It changes you, and it can go for the worse or it can go for the better, however you take it.
Yes. Now, I'd love to hear a little bit more about functional medicine overall, and for those listening in, who would want to look for a functional medicine doctor, or how does that work?
So functional medicine is, when I got introduced to it, I was like all Western medicine. You feel sick, you go get an antibiotic. I had no idea what chiropractic or functional medicine even was. And so I'm a trained chiropractor, but I don't even own a chiropractic table. I do all functional medicine. And what that is I search for the cause of symptoms or the cause of disease. Me personally, I could care less about what your diagnosis is.
Yeah.
For me, a diagnosis is the symptoms are
Mhm.
fitting underneath an umbrella. And when they do, they can then give a diagnosis and a subsequent pill afterwards to quote manage symptoms. So let's take anxiety and depression, for example, because they're rampant right now.
Yeah.
So the number one underlying cause of anxiety and depression both are, one, lack of vitamin D, and
Mhm.
then two, this thing I call a hidden low-grade infection.
Okay.
So vitamin D, you'll go to your doctors, you get a blood work sample taken, and they tell you that your labs are normal, right?
Mhm.
So many times women get told that their labs are quote normal, but then they're like, well, then why is my hair falling out? And why can I not lose weight? And why does so-and-so have the energy to make dinner at night and still keep the house clean and I don't?
Mhm.
So then they start saying, well, what's wrong with me on the inside then? What's wrong with my personality rather than what's
Yeah.
wrong with my health? And nobody can figure it out. So it's taking those normal labs and it's looking at them in a unique way. So vitamin D, the normal lab range is from 30 to, where's my camera there? 30 to 100. That's the normal lab range. Ideally, you want it to be between 80 and 100. So there's a big difference. And there's a big difference on how you feel when your vitamin D is up at that range and not down at that range, but yet it's still all normal.
Yep.
So
Yep.
if I were to recommend a vitamin D regimen to anybody who is struggling with anxiety or depression, especially heading into these winter blues and the SAD season, it would be this. And you might think I'm crazy because it's quite high, but I'm telling you, it really works. So if you have vitamin D on your shelf, go grab it. And notice that the serving size will say 2,000 or 5,000 IUs.
Mhm.
Now, IUs is just the way that they measure it. So when I say that, just think that's how it's measured. So you're going to take 25,000 IUs of vitamin D per day. Most people take around 5,000.
Yeah.
And the doctor is going to prescribe you 50,000 per week.
Mhm.
So we're going to take a really high doses. I just say jack up your vitamin D, do that for a month, 25,000 IUs. And then, so come January, do 20,000 IUs. And then come February, 15,000. And then March, 10,000. And if you want to, you can maintain at 10,000. That's my vitamin D protocol. That's worked wonders for anxiety and depression. Then the second component of the underlying cause of depression and anxiety is this thing I call a hidden infection. And this is a low-grade infection. So this is an infection that if you were to go get tested for, say, Epstein-Barr virus, also known as mono, it would be negative. Because unless you are literally unable to walk up the stairs, whether it be 10 stairs or 15 stairs, you're physically that depleted because that virus is so active, that's when it's going to become a positive test. The research has shown that 90% of humans carry that virus.
Wow.
So if it's just a little low grade, if it's just a little bit active, you're still going to feel fatigued. And it could be 20 years of fatigue. It could be 6 months of fatigue. If it's dormant, now you have more of the energy. So when you're looking at that low grade infection, you're going to take this marker on a lab. I guarantee you anybody who has blood work has this lab because it's like the number one lab everybody takes. Okay. So there's going to be a marker at the very top that says WBC, stands for white blood cell.
Yep.
That range, the normal range, throw it out. Your doctor's going to tell you that your labs are normal, and then you're going to be like, well, why the heck can I not function during the day? Why am I just in survival mode? Okay. To get from survival mode into thriving mode, we got to take that normal range and make it smaller. So now you're in the ideal range where you're thriving and not just surviving.
Yeah.
So if that WBC is less than 5 or greater than 8, there's an infection. Somewhere, some type of infection that's basically causing your body to shut down for depression, or it's making it so on edge that any little thing can throw you into an anxiety attack. That's kind of how it works. Does that make sense?
Yes. So then how are they treating these kind of infections that they can't find? Are you doing antibiotics? Or are you doing other?
I take the natural route. So I do supplements, but I'm very particular about the supplements. And the stuff that I use, you don't have to take a horde of it. I'm not a fan of taking supplements for the rest of your life. That becomes very expensive survival tools, as I call them, where I use supplements to heal, to get the job done, and then you're set. Now, sometimes you might need to go grab something in 5 years that's from your toolkit, but I don't say, hey, you need to take this for the rest of your life. So the supplements I use are designed to attack whatever type of infection that is, and then to reboot the body, heal the systems, balance the hormones, fix the thyroid. I mean, whatever it is, you can name it. But what it really comes down to is I love numbers because numbers never lie. So I've learned and trained myself and taken extra trainings on how to take labs that people already have. They've already donated the blood to. They've already paid the copays for. Those labs, instead of getting such expensive treatment and such expensive labs, which there are out there, we take those and we use them from the normal to the ideal version. And now we can say, okay, is the infection parasitic? Is it bacterial? Is it viral? Is it toxic? Whatever type of infection it is, we can determine that using the normal blood work.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
That's incredible.
But, yeah, functional medicine is all about finding that root cause and then resolving it. So in infertility, PCOS, endometriosis, thyroid, anxiety, depression, chronic fatigue, all of the I feel like crap, but I'm not crappy enough to give me a diagnosis.
Yes.
Stuff.
Wow. That's great. So that's something that people definitely need to look into, especially now to maintain wellness and be at your highest level so that we don't get anything else going on.
Yeah. To boost that immune system.
Yeah.
And if you want to learn more, I have a podcast out. It's called Beyond the Diagnosis with Dr. Kylie. You can check it out on any podcast platform.
That's great. Yes. I know the vitamin D. Actually, it was my daughter. She was working and going to school full time, both. So she was doing double shifts because that's who she is. Nobody told her to. You know, I will pay for school. Just go to school. No, I got to work. Okay. And she's studying psychology. So she's working with with kids and working in that field already, getting her hours that way too. So it's kind of part of her schooling. And she hadn't seen the sun. Well, one of her other jobs, because she did another part-time job at Starbucks, so she was drinking coffee.
Oh, geez.
So for energy, not realizing what was going on. And then she had stomach issues, like really bad stomach issues. And I was like, we need to go to a doctor and we need to check your vitamin levels. That was the first thing I said. There's something not right. We go in, her vitamin D level was 18.
Woo.
Yeah. They were like, you could have gone to the hospital for this. This is really bad. This is getting dangerous. And they said, do you feel depressed, honey? And she was like, well, I'm kind of upset with myself because I'm so tired and I feel sad because I can't do as much. And, this was a year ago, so 23 years old. So very young. And I think, how can this happen? She takes a multivitamin, but she wasn't getting sunshine. Yeah. And so, you need the sunshine. They did give her prescription vitamins. We take, always now we do the vitamin D and K supplements and this and that. And she's fine. And I have her tested every now and then. And she takes time off to walk and all that every day in the sun now. But that was interesting. And on the other end of the spectrum, they gave me a test. And I said, well, I'm tired. Test my levels. I was 99. Because I was
props to you.
I was taking supplements, and I really think it was a mother's intuition, because I was like, I feel like I'm tired, maybe vitamin D. And it was like, I think I was feeling her tiredness. I don't know. It's a connection we have, I think. I don't know. And so there's something about, and then they said, well, that's kind of, you only want to get so high. And so you have to make sure that you're not so high that you don't, like, I would not need to do the higher level protocols.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't.
That wouldn't be safe for me. So, you do want to get your initial blood work. That's why you look at the blood work to make sure to see where the people are at, so you can read individually, because it's going to be so different. Here, I'm 99, my daughter's 18. Yeah. On the scale of 30 is the low to 100.
Right.
So, yes. So that's interesting how that can happen. You just don't know.
Yeah, blood work is key. I went to school in Portland, Oregon, where it's just raining for 10 months out of the year. I remember one of the summers, I was so excited to come home to Utah and go to the lake with my family, because I was so excited to see the sun. That was all I wanted to do, was just see the sun and not be in a rain jacket all the time. Now, granted, it's gorgeous. It's beautifully green up there, but it's because it rains all the time.
Very much, yes. So now, how do people, are you doing like telemedicine now, or how can people work with you?
Yeah, so when I got pregnant with my third, because I was so rough, I actually went virtual before it was cool to go virtual.
That's great.
So we've been virtual for about 1.5 years, and I do everything over Zoom virtual calls. The way I have Zoom set up through this EHR system I use was what they call it. It's all HIPAA compliant, so nobody can crack into Zoom on our consults. But I've been doing I'm transitioning more over to the group Q&A stuff, many one-on-one sessions with me. We're launching a community membership site in January, just because my goal is to help more people afford it.
Yes.
I know a lot of moms in my area specifically have, 4, 5, 6 kids, the house payment, the food bill, and It's like they can't spend the thousands of dollars on their health, but they can spend 100 here and there.
Yes.
So we're trying to get it into more hands, this information, where they can start going from a survival mode into a thriving mode. But the greatest place to check it out, to learn more, is the podcast. And I'm on Facebook. That's where I'm most active. Dr. Kylie Burton on Facebook. And if you want to check out the website, drkylieburton.com. Yeah, it's all virtual, so I have no limitations on boundaries, which is pretty cool. Yeah. We ship supplements anywhere. We haven't shipped them internationally yet, but we'll get there.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, well, Thank you so much. Thank you for being a guest on the show. And we will connect. I will probably have my daughter and I join your program and ask my sons. They're all married and on their own now, but they'll probably look into it too, because we're all into wellness. So
Yeah. Come join us on Facebook. Check out the podcast. That's the greatest place to learn more and really to dive in to thinking. Because it's a completely different mindset where you're going from searching for a diagnosis to I want to look beyond the diagnosis and figure out the why. So
that's wonderful. All right. Okay. And for those that are listening in, stay tuned. We'll be back after these messages. All right. Thank you again, Dr. Kylie.
thanks, Sheila.
And now it's time for Dear Sheila. So if you have a question for me, please send it in to www.dearsheila.com, and your question may be selected to be shared on one of the radio shows. And if your question is shared, it will also be entered in a contest. This is a giveaway question contest. So once your question is shared on the air, you'll be entered to win a prize, and we have some fun prizes from many different vendors. So send your questions in again to dearsheila.com. Now take a listen. Here's a question. Dear Sheila, my worst fear has happened. I recently had a miscarriage, and I have been having a hard time with it. I can barely get out of bed every day, and I can't bring myself to get motivated to get back to work. I can't talk to my mom or friends about it because I didn't tell them I was pregnant. I was afraid that this would happen. I feel so alone. My husband has been kind and patient, but I'm afraid that this is negatively impacting our relationship. We haven't had sex in 6 months. I know that he wants to try for another baby, but I just am not ready for that. How can I recover from this? What can I do to feel like myself again so that I can be a good wife? I feel so stuck in this grief. How can I get past it? Signed, Stuck in Pain. Dear Stuck in Pain, the fact that you asked the question is part of your answer, because you know there's a certain time frame where you are stuck, and it's okay to grieve for as long as you need to grieve. It's okay to pace yourself. It may be that as a mom, we have an intuition. We have an intuition about when our bodies are even ready for another baby, when our emotional state is ready. So that's okay. If you're not ready to go have another baby yet, that's perfectly fine. That is more than fine. And if you still need to grieve, that's okay too. Yet I would, at this point, because you even said stuck in the pain, I would definitely get some grief counseling, because there's a point where letting go and knowing that there's something beyond this. In every culture that we've ever seen, if you look at all the scientific, religious, scientific, it doesn't matter if you're religious or not, there's studies of something beyond this field of existence, some type of something where whether a baby goes back to something else and comes back in another form or at a different time, you know, where somebody leaves and somebody else comes in, and it doesn't change the reality of losing a loved one or even a baby that hasn't come in yet. But it's a knowing that there is a cycle and a reason beyond our understanding. And it may be that there's a timing that's going to work out perfectly when you are ready. So listen to that. In my book and on my website, there's lots of resources for different ways to connect with free and low-cost grief counseling that I would look into as well. And just know that it's okay to not be ready, and don't jump into anything until your body and your heart and emotionalness is ready to try again. And that's okay too. I hope this helps. As always, I wish you life, love, laughter, and light. Thank you for listening to Dear Sheila, answering real questions with real solutions to reboot your life. If you have a burning question, submit your question now to www.dearsheila.com. www.dearsheila.com. If you are just tuning in, this is the Sheila Mack Show, reality at its finest. Here we have real people sharing real stories and actionable steps to help you reinvent, rebuild, and reboot your business and personal life on your terms. I'm your host, Sheila Mack, and we are here today on NBC's KCAA Radio, the station that leaves no listener behind. There's another app called the Nextdoor, and it is something that in different communities they have this online thing. And there was one senior who had lost her job and her husband passed away, and the community has been working really hard to all pitch in and help support her, but everybody has been hit with their own situations this year. And you know, I noticed this listing and shared the 211 information, and now this lady has so much more help with rental assistance, housing, food, lots of senior programs that she was not aware of, and it's just really made a difference in her life for this season. So it is a lifeline and something that can help. More gift that I want to give you that's a special resource as we are closing out this year and getting ready for a new year. I would love to give you a special holiday gift just for you. So if you go to www.sheilamack.com/bootsmeditation, you will receive a free introduction to the Boots Formula mini course, as well as a meditation, a manifesting meditation to help you get ready to set your new goals, maybe reinvent, reboot, rebuild your business or personal life on your terms, and just get grounded this year as you get ready for the new year.
So here it is, my latest book. I have to let you know something, just between you and me. This book is not one size fits all, just like a pair of boots or a bra. So the formula is designed to help you through any situation.
At its finest, and I'm giving you some homework. Grab a copy of my latest book, Bootstraps and Bra Straps, the formula to go from rock bottom back into action in any situation. That's right. If life has knocked you down, get ready to pick yourself back up and give.
Have you lost your job? Have you lost a loved one? Are you exhausted caring for your parents, for your kids? Well, you can find immediate relief when you read Sheila Mack's new #1 bestseller, Bootstraps and Bra Straps. It contains the Boots formula to move from rock bottom back into action in any situation, especially right now. So if life has knocked you down, pick yourself up with Bootstraps and Bra Straps. Get your copy at www.sheilamack.com today.